I'm Joshua Weissman, and this is Cooking for Characters, where I cook dishes for some of Netflix's most legendary characters. Today, in celebration of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein now playing on Netflix, I'm cooking for Victor Frankenstein, the creator. I'm making what I call Frankenleches. It's not my best name, I'm gonna be honest with you. Now, Frankenleches is a modified version of my take on tres leches. It's put together through both traditional and untraditional components, just as Victor brought together life from many parts. At the base, you've got the classic sponge, soaked in the traditional 3 milks. But then we're gonna layer on a beautiful espresso coffee cream, darker, bolder, something that wakes up the whole thing, you know, like a jolt of electricity maybe. Finally, a salted caramel drizzle on top, sweet, salty, the final flourish that really is gonna bring it all together. So let's see if this dish would pass his ultimate test, creation.
What manner of devil made him? I did.
First, 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a half teaspoon of salt, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. All right, whisk that together till thoroughly combined. And that's our dry. I just want this ready. I'll set that to the side. Now, I have 2 bowls and 6 whole eggs. So in one of the bowls, I'm gonna crack each of those eggs carefully. Do not break the yolk. That will ruin this process and you'll basically have to start over. Okay, so we have our 6 eggs. Now, crucial moment. We wanna separate the yolks from the white. A lot of people like to do this with like 2 shells, but then you risk tearing a yolk. You could just use what nature gave you, your hands. So you're gonna pick up a yolk and gently slide it between your 2 hands, and you have a separated yolk. Now you have your egg whites and your egg yolks. So we're first gonna beat these egg yolks for about a minute or 2, just until they're a little bit more pale in color. They're just about there, I would say. So now we have 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and we're gonna integrate that a little bit at a time while beating on high. Once it's incorporated, repeat again, and finally, the rest of your sugar. Now we've added all of our sugar. You can see that this is basically doubled in volume. It's thick, it's viscous, it's creamy, creamy yellow. We're now ready to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Beat that in. Then you're gonna lower your speed, and you're gonna gently whisk in 1/2 cup of whole milk. Beautiful, look at that. Now, we're gonna set this to the side. We now have our egg whites. Beat that on high. We're beating it around the bowl, incorporating that air. Now we're talking. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of my 1/4 cup of sugar at a time. Beat that in until all of your sugar is added. And then you're just gonna keep on beating until you reach a beautiful stiff peak. It's standing straight up. That's a good sign. Now what we're gonna do, we're just gonna pour that yolk mixture directly in. Make sure to scrape any sugar that's rested at the bottom of the bowl. And then using a spatula, you're just gonna keep on folding that together. Look at that.
Beautiful creature, is she not?
Now, we're ready to add our dry mix from earlier. I like to go half first, and then you're just gonna fold that together. Once that's mostly incorporated, add the other half, and then just keep on folding together until beautifully and thoroughly combined. We have our sponge cake batter ready. 9x13 baking pan with parchment in the bottom. Gonna lightly grease that. Pour your batter in all of it. The best part about this recipe is this is the majority of the work you're gonna do. So the hardest part is over. Shake this out. Make sure that that's going to all 4 corners. You can also use your spatula to spread it out. Now, we're ready to go into the oven. 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes.
I'll be back. All right, stay there.
Now for the most important part, the part that really inspired this entire dish. In the film, Victor Frankenstein is frequently seen with a glass of milk. Maybe it's symbolic of comfort, hominess, hence tres leches. We've got 14 ounces of condensed milk, then 12 ounces of evaporated milk, and finally 1/2 cup of full-fat, heavy whipping cream. This is really optional, but I like to add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla bean because it looks cool and it's absolutely delicious. I'm going to carefully whisk that together. Now for the last touch. This is the part of the recipe that's not traditional, but built for Dr. Frankenstein. The creation is not complete without it.
I never considered what would come after creation.
We have 2 cups of granulated white sugar going into medium to large sauce pot. Then about a 1/3 cup of water. And you're just gonna gently mix that together. We have no heat on this yet. About a 1/2 cup of water. So we're gonna set that over medium heat. We're just gonna let that come up to a boil. Now, once that reaches a beautiful amber color, rich, glossy, we're gonna whisk in 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Be careful because it will sputter a little bit. Follow that with 8 tablespoons of cold, unsalted butter. You're just gonna whisk that till everything's emulsified and homogeneous. And then finally, you're gonna add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Very important, we're gonna set this into a separate container and let this cool down to room temperature. You do not wanna use this while it's hot because it will melt through your whipped cream.
Hot, hot. No, don't touch. Don't touch that. It's hot.
Then 25 minutes. Pull your sponge out. It looks stunning. Take a toothpick, insert it into the deepest part all the way down. If it comes out clean, which it did, it's done. Already your home is smelling good, but we need to let this cool completely before we move on to soaking it. Probably like 20, 30 minutes of cooling. Now this is really the most untraditional part of it. We have an espresso cream. That's the jolt I need. So, cold bowl, cold whisk, set on a stand mixer, 2 cups of ice cold heavy whipping cream. We're gonna mix that on medium speed, work our way up to medium high, and then we're gonna start beating that. Once it starts to form a little bit of a whipped cream, we're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, a tablespoon at a time until all of it is added, letting it incorporate in between each addition. And then finally 2 teaspoons of vanilla paste and 2 teaspoons of instant espresso powder. Keep whisking that until you have a beautiful, luscious whipped cream that's got sort of a soft peak. Okay, our sponge is cooled down. I can now touch it. Now take a fork and you're going to prick the entire sponge and make sure that you go all the way to the bottom. It's okay if the top tears a little, try to keep it somewhat intact. Now it's important to really go edge to edge. Think of it like this. The pricks are going to allow the 3 milks to really properly soak in this. I'm not saying you need to put a million holes in this thing, but I am saying that if it's not evenly pricked, you will end up with a unevenly soaked cake. Victor would not be happy, I'll tell you that.
That should be our concern. Should be.
Okay, so this is pricked all over. We're gonna pour all of our milk mixture over this. Now, upon first glance, you might be thinking, whoa, that is too much liquid, Josh. I promise you it's not. Look, it's already soaked up half of it. You can even kind of press it like a sponge and kind of rotate it around. You can even flip it over if you wanted to, if you're worried about it not getting penetrated enough. Now, at this point, we're going to cover this and then set this in the fridge overnight. And what happens next may surprise you. This comes out, and it has soaked up the vast majority of that liquid. It's even become a little bit more engorged. It's kind of widened a little bit.
Oh yes, this is hitting rather nicely.
We've got our coffee cream. We're gonna layer that directly on top. You could even pipe this on if you wanted to create a little pattern. This is the easiest way to do it. See this right here? This will sweeten up even the most opinionated of scientists, especially if they always have a glass of milk in their hand.
Symbol of life and youth, and you bite into it.
It's been a while since I've had a Tres Leches cake, and I'm realizing that that was a mistake. I'm also realizing that this is one of the most perfect dessert foods on planet Earth.
Absolutely delighted.
It's moist, it's sweet, it's creamy, but it's also refreshing. You're almost like borderline drinking your cake, which adds this sort of refreshing element because it's so ice cold and it melts in your mouth. You've got the coffee cream on top, which really does have a nice like fragrance of espresso. I imagine the caffeine will jolt me at some point. And then the salted caramel adding this deep, rich depth that wouldn't have been here. The 3 milks keep it kind of light, keep it kind of chill. But the salted caramel comes in and slaps it together and makes it perfect in unison. So how did I do? Let me know in the comments. And what do you want to see next on Cooking for Characters?
I know you have thoughts, I know you do.
By the way, don't forget to look and watch for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, now playing on Netflix. I'm actually personally very excited about it, and I might be eating a Tres Leches while I'm watching it. And let us know who else you'd like to see me cook for on Cooking for Characters. Love you, bye.